Ladies and gentlemen,
Good evening.
Are you ready?
Okay, here we go.
You're listening to the Deal Room Podcast. Join us as we bring you the inside scoop on business sales and acquisitions. Get across trends in the area and hear the industry's best recount their real-life tips, traps, and experiences. Now, here's your host, Joanna Oakey.
Hi, it's Joanna Oakey here and welcome back to the Deal Room Podcast, a podcast proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. Now, today we have on the show Tony Latessa from Latessa Business Sales, who is here to talk to us all about the benefits of the AIBB, that's the Australian Institute of Business Brokers. Now, Tony is no spring chicken in this game. He comes to us with a wealth of knowledge and history in the industry. In fact, he has been in the industry since 1985 and has sold approximately 1,100 businesses Australia-wide. Tony is the National Chairperson for the Australian Institute of Business Brokers and also the Chairperson for Victoria. Tony is a live wire, and this is a great discussion that we had today in this episode, not just about the Australian Institute of Business Brokers, but we'll really also look at some other interesting statistics about the business sale and acquisition industry in Australia. We look at internationally what associations like the Australian Institute of Business Brokers are doing. We're looking at the international reach of the Australian Institute of Business Brokers into New Zealand. We look at the mergers and acquisitions chapter and the relevance that it has to advisors who are in the mid-market space. And we also talk a little bit about the market, what's happening at the moment in the industry, in business sales and acquisitions, the crisis that are facing many in this industry, and what they can do to position themselves well when the turnaround comes. So there's just a wealth of information that we cover today in this episode, and I hope you find it really interesting listening. So here we go with Tony. Tony, I just want to say a massive thank you and welcome on to the Deal Room Podcast.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Okay, all right. We always have so much to chat about when we're talking. And so there's a few things that I wanted to traverse today. I wanted to talk about, obviously, about the AIBB. You're the chairperson of AIBB, but you're also a broker who's been in the industry for a good few years. So I think, today I want to traverse some insights in relation to AIBB, but also I just want to talk about some of the insights that you can give from your wealth of history in this industry. So maybe let's start with AIBB. Some of our listeners will know all about AIBB, and then another cross-section of our listeners, I think, have probably heard about it, but not been members. Maybe if you can just give us a little bit of a quick overview. What do you think really are the deep strengths of AIBB? What is it? Why should brokers or advisors get involved with a membership?
Well, AIBB have started back in 1968 and they're purely and simply dedicated for business brokering. Unlike most of the real estate institutes throughout Australia, where you've got business brokering plus residential, industrial and commercial, AIBB is purely and simply business brokering. And of course that dedicates the whole association to inform and keep abreast of all the changes to do with business brokering throughout Australia. It is Australia-wide, and it also has provision to introduce the New Zealand business brokers as well, which we're attempting to do.
Oh, really?
Yes. Well, New Zealand has 350 business brokers, which is an untapped market for us. I've been endeavouring over the past 2 months to try to get into the New Zealand market. We've suddenly located a person who's willing to stand in as a chairperson, and we're needing to form a committee for the New Zealand business brokers, and that's what we're attempting to do right now. once we get a committee formed in New Zealand, that will then give us a leg in for opening our benefits to the New Zealand market and to introduce and obtain the business brokers from New Zealand.
That's really interesting. And so do they have a body like AIBB at the moment in New Zealand?
No, they are a little bit different than us. They're mainly of a franchise, a number of large franchise groups.
Right.
Unlike Australia, where we've got 80% of our business brokers operate from under a 10-man office, so to speak. They may have 4 or 5 or 6 franchise group that operate in 50, 60, 70 brokers. And so they're the sort of things. They don't have an association as such. And they look at Australia for their conference needs.
Right.
They look for Australia for their valuation courses, and they look for Australia for guidance as well. Australia also, as you know, affiliated with the Worldwide Business Brokers Association, and we like to keep abreast of what's happening throughout the worldwide. You find the way we do business is possibly very, very similar the way the Americans do business, and the way New Zealand does their businesses is the same, virtually the same as how we do it in Australia. Stands to reason why that New Zealand haven't already knocked on our door. It's because of us not paying attention to New Zealand and attempted to get them. So over the space of the next 2 months, I'm hoping to be able to make headways that way.
I guess in the one sense that will particularly benefit brokerages that have presence in Australia and New Zealand is that what other opportunities does that open up, if any, for brokers here in Australia, do you think?
If you have a look at some of the businesses we sell in Australia, they've got branches in New Zealand. A lot of the Australian manufacturers of different types of products have an office or have a manufacturing plant in Australia and vice versa. That is one of the reasons. I remember I was in New Zealand probably last year now, and I was contacted by one of the franchise owners there to go and see him in relation to try to get an affiliation with one of our franchise groups in Australia so that they can work in conjunction together over the manufacturing plants and businesses they've got for sale in New Zealand that are also associated with plants in Australia. And that's when I started thinking about, hey, maybe we can get New Zealanders to become members of the Australian AIBB.
Fascinating move. One of the things you were talking about is the affiliation of AIBB and the Wide World Association of Business Brokers. Have I got that right? Is that name correct?
Yeah. International Business Brokers Association.
Right. Okay. Yep. And so one of the things that, discussion points that I've had in the past with many people actually is that in the US and many countries over, outside of Australia, there is a higher take-up of membership of associations in the broking industry than perhaps there is here in Australia. Is that your experience?
Yes, absolutely. I think in the States there are 2 associations very much allied together, and one's the International Business Brokers and the other one is the Florida section of the Business Brokers Association. And their main go, so to speak, is to cover their liabilities as such for their members, and people join them so that they're kept abreast of all the legal changes that happen within the states. And they have huge seminars every year that attract anything up to 2,000 to 3,000 people. and their guest speakers are phenomenal. We were meant to be there, I think it was March of this year, but unfortunately because of the virus, they had to cancel. So I would have had more information for you, but unfortunately, but I'll definitely go next year.
And I guess, that's an interesting thing, isn't it? Obviously, I'm sure something that the AIBB is looking closely at, why is it that there's this sort of stronger uptake, really strong uptake in places like America? Because I think the AIBB does just such an amazing job in the industry. I think it fulfills a really important role. There's a real I think there's a real need for it. Something that I've witnessed actually during COVID has been the movement to Zoom meetings, and it seems like you're getting really big uptake at Zoom meetings, and I can just see obviously your use of not just providing information at the Zoom meetings that's really topical at a point where it's a bit of a crisis for the industry, isn't it? So a point where brokers really need information and connection. You're also running a mentoring program, which I think is just, fabulous. But these breakout rooms, one of the things that I have noticed when I've been in some of the breakout rooms is just the camaraderie that I think is really, and that's the sort of thing. We're at the actual in-person events, and of course the conference couldn't be on this year, which is a great shame. But that's one place where I've certainly noticed the camaraderie before. But in these breakout rooms, I think you've done a really great job of taking what is a massive challenge at the moment that no one can meet and turned it into something for the AIBB that maybe you guys didn't even realise would turn into what it has. What's your thoughts about all of that, Tony?
I think you said it well. As a matter of fact, I think you stole my thunder there, which is really good. But I don't need to say anything else. No, quite frankly, you're dead right. Our committee members or the founders of basically of AIBB were the ones that actually thought of this one-on-one breakout Zoom meetings and direct contact if our members were having problems. And I, for one, of course, being the national president, have received quite a lot of calls from people who needed one-on-one help. And I know there are other committee members who have received not only one-on-one, but also at our Zoom meetings where it was very much appreciated by our members. And it was really good that we established that, plus a question and answer Zoom meetings that I think we budgeted for something like 30 to 40 people to attend. Well, the first meeting, if I remember rightly, was something like 150 people, or
and
180
not just
people.
That, then everyone after that, it's continued to have those numbers. So it wasn't just sort of this one-off, I thought, wow, isn't that amazing,
That's incredible. If you think about it, our conferences once a year, there was only around about 150 people, if you wish, to attended. So in actual fact, we had access to our members similar to the degree that we were receiving at the conference. And you mentioned about the breakout rooms. Well, the breakout rooms then proved to be very successful because the guys in that room started to relax. They found or knew that the people that were in the room had similar problems that they were going through. And without a school-teacher relationship or anything that it may have existed in the combined room, they started opening up. And the amount of information that we gained as a committee from that has been enormous. And we've got a list of things that we can improve that was said to us, and we've already started implementing these changes. And so everybody's benefit from these Zoom meetings. And it's been phenomenal. And I think in all our years, this year has proven that the more we talk to our members, the easier it is for us to not only keep them, but the word gets spread around and our membership will grow after this year dramatically.
Yeah, I hope it does, because obviously people who aren't members haven't been on a meeting, so they can't witness what's going on at the moment. But I just think that there's, a lot of information sharing that you can't get from just a general sort of educational forum. This is something, this is experience sharing rather than just something that's just like black letter information. I guess that's the thing. And you talked about being contacted by brokers at points with issues or questions at the moment. Do you feel that there's a risk that many of the brokers, or some of the brokering firms, may not make it through to the end of this crisis? Because obviously, as I said, as we were first talking, this has been a fundamental crisis, and not that we haven't seen it before. I mean, even if I reflect even a year ago, just before the election, we're all seeing a really big drop-off in activity when there was, some issues with business confidence, I guess is the bigger issue. But obviously, this is bigger and this is different in many ways. So what's your feelings about the industry as a whole, and vulnerabilities that it has, and how brokers can deal with those vulnerabilities?
Yeah, it is difficult for them. No matter what we've been through in the past, it's unlike what we're going through right now.
Yeah.
In relation to thinking of what can happen from here on in. And as you can see what's happened in Victoria, where everything seemed like everything was rosy, and now we get into the so-called second wave. Is there a third, fourth, fifth or sixth wave?
Yeah.
And the business brokers in Victoria who have been gearing themselves up are now being flattened again, so to speak. So there is a degree of negativity out there. I guess if I have to summarise the types of calls that I've received were from, if you wish, members who have only got themselves working from home, or members who have only got one or two or three in a small little office, or whatever the case may be, who were doing quite well, who have now been basically hit over the head very, very hard, and they're not sure of, although they hear us talk, they're not sure how the other members are going. At the meetings, they can't just pick one particular person and say, "Hey, Fred, tell us all about you." It's like, if you wish, going to the pub on a one-to-one, and you relax with your friend, and you can talk how the industry's going, and rightly so, face to face. Well, when they ring me, it's on the basis of really finding out how the other business brokers are going. Are they doing the right things? Is there something that I can suggest that they should be doing to carry through? Or should they just call it quits? Is it time to walk?
Yeah.
And they just need moral support, if you wish. And I've always been a very positive person, and I've been through it all, 38 years, and you can name everything that's gone through. Well, we've been through it all, and we've survived quite well. Imparting part of that experience that I've gained. And these people, after they've finished the conversation, they become positive again.
Oh, that's fabulous.
I also notice that if they send me an email, say 2 or 3 weeks after our conversation, just to say, "Look, I was just thinking what you were saying. I really do appreciate what you said." That means that they want me to ring them back. They want me to reboost.
They want to boost again.
They want to reboost. And you can feel that.
Yeah.
And it does help. If I need some assistance as to some help, I know I've got mentors too that I can ring, email, or whatever the case may be. And that's the beauty of our association.
Yeah.
Every one of our members all are prepared to help one another. Although we're in competition, if you wish, against one another, we need to sell businesses. We need to be better than other people in order to get the listing, in order to get the sale. We understand that. But the overall aspect is we are all a member, we're all Australians and New Zealanders, we're all a member of an association, and we all support that association and our members. And this is the prime reason why we are willing to spend $660 or $330 a year to become a member, and that money is paid to insignificance on when you understand the benefits you receive. You can go into our website and find out a whole range of benefits why AIBB is a good organisation. We haven't even mentioned the valuation course. Even that alone stands for reason why we're the only committee in Australia that's dedicated to business brokers, and why we should join and maintain and help one another.
And I want to come back in a moment as well to the M&A group, which is, I think, a really great addition, because, I've certainly heard around in the market, lots of people who are in the industry have the opinion that AIBB isn't right for them because they deal with, mid-market deals. So we'll come back to that in a moment, because I just want to talk about that elephant in the room and some of the great things that I think are happening in that area. But before I go there, you mentioned that you are an optimistic person. I think you and I have had a few discussions in the past. We're both very optimistic. Well, okay, perhaps we're optimistic people anyway, so we're going to have to be optimistic about the future. Both of us are optimistic, though, about, the recovery, about the opportunity for business brokers that's coming soon. I think I personally am seeing it warm up a lot right now. I think October, there'll be a lot going on. I think buyers are starting to hit the market. I just think there's loads going on at the moment. But let's talk about, what does that mean practically, though? What should business brokers be doing now to gear themselves up for the opportunities? Because just because there's a bounce back doesn't mean that deals are going to start falling in their laps out of the sky without work, right? So, let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah, all business brokers may not know it, but they're farmers. In other words, we need to get out there and keep abreast of the situation, know your area, know what you're dealing with, know your competitors, know the new manufacturers and export agents and all the other businesses around in your area. You need your name to be put out there. You need your brochures. You need your door knocking if need be, advertising, or whatever the case may be. The moment you stop that is the moment you start sliding. And what's been happening now is that the people who were farming readily, often in the past, before the virus hit, are still getting sales from what they did in the past. What they hopefully should realise, that as each sale or each listings are listed and sold, they are becoming what I call skinnier and skinnier. In other words, they're using up the fat that was built up prior to the virus, and they need to maintain the body weight. To do that, they need to not just get the listing and that particular sale, but they need to get out, whether they're at home or whatever the case may be, and still do the fundamental things to keep the contact going for the future. When this period does finish, and they could be sitting there and suddenly say, well, I'm ready to do all these listings, I'm ready to do all these sales, and it doesn't happen, the first thing a bad broker will say, well, it's not my fault, the market's not as good as people say it is. Well, it is good. The only reason why they're not as good is because they didn't continue on with their farming, and they needed to do that. You can't stop. Unfortunately, in this market, you work 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, whether you know it or not, and you've got to keep farming. And this is the reason why a good broker would always get his listing and always get his sales. And if he has a good month whereby he sells an extra 2, 3 or 4 sales, he's got to work harder to maintain that for the following months. And he knows it. And they're the sort of people who can impart their knowledge on to the young and up and coming members of AIBB.
Yeah, I completely agree. And so what else is it that you say on the phone? You said, you've had these discussions with brokers on the phone. They give you a call. They're feeling a bit despondent, understandably. And you give them a real pep talk on the basis of, did you say you're 38 years in the industry, which is just fabulous and obviously a lot of experience to be reflecting on. So what are some of the things that you say in this call, Tony? I want to hear it.
Well, it's all subject to the person that I'm talking to at the other end, and it's subject to what he says to me and how he says it to me. Number one, most people are not interested in what I've done, to tell you the truth. Nobody's interested that I've been in the industry for, say, 38 years, but they may be interested in, saying, in selling the gold mine. Yeah. If they've got a gold mine for sale, if you understand, and they're trying to pick your brain to try to assist them in that gold mine. So if they come to me and says, Tony, I think this market stinks, and I don't know why I became a business broker, and here I am a member of AIBB. Where do I go from here? You can clearly see that he's been blaming the economy rather than himself. He's got a problem. His problem is himself, and you've got to nicely bring him back to make him realise that in actual fact, it's yourself. Let's fix you up and forget about the economy, because the economy is immaterial at this stage. If you fix yourself up, sales and listings will happen.
And so what's an example of that? So how practically, maybe give us some insight from some of these calls you've had. What are some of the strategies that you've been suggesting? Obviously, keep in contact, keep marketing, keep out there.
Yeah, the people that don't ring back are the people who I think I've got through to, and they don't need me again, which is great. And that means that I've done my job. Hasn't been a lot of people that come back to me time and time again, except there's one particular guy, and hello, if you happen to see this, please keep ringing me if you want me to. But it's been back to me about 10 to 15 times.
You're clearly creating a wealth of information, Tony, a wealth of information.
He's young and he needs the information that I can impart on him. But look, one of the things I try to do is get them to spend a little bit of time on themselves, just a little bit. Go away somewhere for a period of 4 hours, or do something that's unusual. If you normally get up, get dressed, go into your office or go into your home office or whatever the case may be, then go and do something. Get dressed, jump in the car and do something you haven't done for a long, long, long time. Spend 3 or 4 hours and just think of what you're doing. And that change in scenery, the change of what he's doing, tends to make him go back to basic. And when he remembered when he first joined, how enthusiastic he was when he first joined, and
or her, Tony, or her,
or her. I beg your pardon, of course, and bring him back to reality that way. And you fix yourself up first, and then everything else will follow.
Okay, I like it. So it's a bit of mental health advice first.
Oh, it is. So then we'll get on to the nitty-gritties of businesses.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Fabulous. Now, as I said before, one of the things that I wanted to talk about is the new M&A group, which I think is a fabulous move, and run at the moment by Stephen Groves, who and I've been on a couple of the meetings, and they're really, I just think it's a really good move by the AIBB. Can you maybe just give me a quick overview of that? What was added? What the idea is of it?
The M&A boys kept themselves within the AIBB, kept themselves reasonably quiet, because they felt that it wasn't part of, if you wish, AIBB. M&A is just, to me, not to me, but it's just another name of being a business broker, except they do it differently. They've got their own clients, whether they're acting on behalf of the buyer or they're acting on behalf of a large consortium of sellers. They may just have one group of sellers, and then they farm that to the world, if you wish, or to other M&A agents who have got their own section, and they on sell, and it's a lot of word of mouth going all the way down the line, and some of their a lot of their sales in some cases are conjunctional. And they do, obviously, their sales are large. They look at their vendors differently than the way we look at ours of any businesses up to, say, $2 million or whatever the case may be. M&A are part of AIBB. We want them to be an active part of AIBB. It's a good way for other members to start looking at ways of even getting into M&As and getting themselves branched off that way. I mean, the world, to tell you the truth, it was, Monday. I got a listing. You're not going to believe this. I got a listing on Monday. By the way, a listing is maybe not what you're thinking it is, but I have got a listing on Monday that's $10 billion. It's worth $10 billion, not million, $10 billion. Now, that's just one person, if you wish. Now, it's amazing how the world turns. And in other words, I've got an opportunity of selling something that's $10 billion.
Yeah.
And that only happens with people all over the world that gets to know you from either your websites or your word of mouth or know what you've done in the past or referrals. If you haven't got that, you will not get those type of opportunities. And Stephen knows himself that when he first started, obviously had to start small or had found out, had a client who gave him an opportunity and he went from there. I mean, I remember I was in Singapore conducting the seminars in Singapore. I was meant to be there for 4 days. One of the guys that came to see me was an M&A guy, and he was Australian, and I spent an extra 4 days in Singapore just talking to him. And he actually helped me in getting the M&As as well. And, of course, I don't know whether other brokers would agree with me, but I consider the centre of the world, which is Singapore, is the centre of M&As. That's where it all happens.
So once again, it's just all about networking, isn't it? And
absolutely.
I have heard out in the market this impression that I mean, look, there's just so much nuance with some of the words that are used in this industry as well. Like just the term brokers, for example. A lot of advisors, we have to, many times in this podcast, I have to really be really careful about talking about brokers and advisors, because many advisors who effectively are, brokers in accordance with the regulation we have here in Australia, don't see themselves under that terminology, because they see brokers as, deals under 1 or 2 million or under 5 million or whatever, and the mid-market deals as, people who are involved just in mid-market deals to, that terminology doesn't apply to them. And of course there's the whole licensing issues as well in relation to how to get the licensing, which doesn't help with the whole situation when of course it's so tied to real estate. But coming back to AIBB membership, I think there's this whole nuance as well that's an issue when we've got so much going on in the market with this issue around the word broker for advisors who are in the M&A space. I just think it's such a great move to have an M&A group. So it's clear that there's a space where you're focusing on this mid-market deal rather than, the sort of smaller in inverted commas transactions.
Yes.
So, but many people out there just wouldn't have any idea and have probably put AIBB in a category. So I just wanted to make sure we reflected on that and talked about that, because I just think it's a great move by the AIBB, and I think it's a really interesting group that you guys have put together.
Yeah, and the other thing, if I may, and I don't know how much time you've got, but the other thing that changed within the last, since I've been there, within the last 12 months or so, since I've been chair, is our partnership or sponsors have changed. We used to have our sponsors purely and simply to look after our conferences. Now, if you're a sponsor and you're paid a certain sum of money, you had the right to attend our conference, talk at the conference, mingle with our members or whatnot, and then after the conference, within 30 days after the conference, you're forgotten about. There was no follow-up until the following year, and people were knocking on your door saying, "Give me some more money, and you can attend the conference." We've changed that. For a start, our sponsors are our partners now. Our partners are our partners from the 1st of August, and I call it the 1st of August. I think the AIBB might call it the 1st of July, I don't know. But the 1st of August 2020 to the 1st of August 2021, and you're our partner for the whole year. You're not just our partner for the conference, you're our partner for the whole year. You're entitled to speak to the members at any time. You can attend all state committee meetings. You can attend all the Zoom meetings. You've got the right to send a submission for the newsletter, and I can go on and on and on and on and on. And we, as on the committee, will always inform our state committee members to always mention our partners, and our partners is always, and if you have a look at my minutes of the meeting, mentions all our partners, and our partners are getting their worth, so to speak, at all times, and we will promote you. So therefore, we know who you are, like Aspect Legal in solicitor and being the solicitor for us, and handle that, and our own private works that we need, and then we've got everything else. So that's also changed. So, and we're going to maintain that, and there'll be other partners that will join us, and we'll be a lot better off. And of course, with partners and what we then can offer to our members, of course, will lead to new members.
Fabulous. And look, I guess let's pave the way for the future. There's some really exciting things that are coming forward for AIBB membership from a legal perspective as well as many other perspectives. So there's some things cooking away here that I think, will be a massive benefit to members. And the point is the AIBB is constantly evolving and trying to find new ways to add value. So I guess that's, another thing to throw in there. And, I say that because in the discussions that I've had with you, Tony, in the discussions that I've had with Peter Fennell in New South Wales and Clifford Foster, and the discussions that I'd had in the past with Zoran, who was the chairman last year, the one thing that I have seen in my discussions with all of you over time is how committed you are to trying to find ways to give back to the industry. It's a non-profit organisation. It's run by people who are volunteers, right? You're a volunteer, and the thing that seems to unite you all as I speak to you is that this desire to create things that are of value out of membership, but also to create things that that are helpful to members. So, look, I just want to make a call out to you and you guys and girls who put in a lot of your own time. I guess there's no massive reward for you other than the benefit of knowing that you're helping the industry. So I guess just making that clear for our listeners, you're not here with an agenda for yourself. You're here because you're doing things and you want to support the industry.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if you know, but our constitution, which was set up 6 years ago, means that a lot of our committee members who have been on the committee for 15, 20 years no longer can stand for the committee. As for basically the 15th of August of this year. And we've already started with the new blood, so to speak, started last year. And from this time, from here on in, we need a lot of new blood coming in. Thank goodness the older members of AIBB will want to stay on in some shape or form, although they're not on the committee. They will be always kept as advisors. We need their experience, and we've got some wonderful men who have been with us since 1989, and they will still remain. We'll still get the benefit of what they've got to offer, but we'll also get the benefit of the new fresh blood that's going to come on. And along with that will be up to date what our current members are wanting, and we're prepared to do what is necessary, and we're prepared to spend money to do what is necessary to look after our members and get new members and get the New Zealand in and whatever else. And we've got the M&A chapter, we've got the Chinese chapter, the Southeast chapter, and we're going to get more chapters coming in. And we're going to go from there. We'll go from strength to strength, and as soon as the RBV get started again next year, there'll be a fresh influx of new members getting their qualification of being a licensed valuer, and our future looks really rosy.
It looks brilliant. It does look really bright. Although you and I have both put our hands up to say we're optimists anyway, but I do think the future is bright for AIBB. I think it feels a really important service. And, as I said, I just want to be clear, there's no ulterior motives for people like you who are involved. You just there because you really want to support positive change within the industry,
Yep.
and here's hoping that we can get it to the point that it is in America, where there's just such a strong uptake. But I think you're well on the path to doing that. And I think some of the initiatives that we've talked about today really will drive it that way. And of course, as you and I know, there's some exciting things in the pipeline to come. So
absolutely.
Good work, Tony. Well, look, I love this industry. Clearly you must too, given you've given it a few years.
I have, yeah.
But I just want to say a massive thank you to you for coming onto the show. And how about you give us a little overview? How is it that someone, if they've listened to this podcast and they've realised they're not a member, shame on you, how do they go about getting organising membership, Tony?
Well, you can always ring me on 0412 525151, or if you know Zoe's email address, that's info@aibb.com. Just send an email off and we will certainly be on to you like a shot.
You rock. Well, look, Tony, I just want to say a massive thank you for joining us on the show today.
Thank you.
Well, that's it for this episode of the Deal Room podcast, where we're looking at the industry itself. We're looking at membership of the Australian Institute of Business Brokers. We're looking at the evolution of the association, what it has on the cards for members right now, and what it's looking at adding into the benefits of membership into the future. I hope you enjoyed the episode, and if you'd like more information about this topic, then just head over to our website at thedealroompodcast.com, where you'll be able to download a transcript of this podcast episode if you are just dying to read it in more detail. There, you'll also find details of how to contact Tony, and you'll also find details of how to contact the Australian Institute of Business Brokers if you like what we've heard today and you'd love to become a part of it. But at that website, you will also find details of how to contact our lawyers at Aspect Legal if you or your buyers or sellers would like to discuss any legal aspects of sales or acquisitions. We've got a number of great services that help businesses prepare and help them throughout the transaction to get through the deal as quickly as possible and with as little pain as possible. We have a free call service available on our website where you can book in with one of our legal eagles to have a discussion about an upcoming sale or acquisition. Or if you're a broker, why don't you book yourself in a time as well, and we can organise a time to talk to me or one of our other legal eagles here at Aspect Legal about ways we can assist you in providing a strong deal team for use by your sellers and also by your buyers. And finally, if you enjoyed what you heard today, then I'd be ever so grateful if you would first pop over to your favourite podcast player and hit that subscribe button. And secondly, maybe considering being kind enough to leave us a review. Well, that's it. Thanks again for listening in. You have been listening to the Deal Room Podcast, a podcast very proudly brought to you by our commercial legal practice, Aspect Legal. See you next time. Have you heard of Aspect Legal's partner program? Our partner program is a free program that's open to brokers, corporate advisors, accountants, and any other advisors to businesses who are dealing with organisations that are leading into a sale or acquisition of businesses or shares. As part of our partner program, we offer free access to our legal hotline, which is a support line to our specialist lawyers. We also provide a pre-free sale legal review to buyers and sellers, where we educate them about the process and timelines from a legal perspective. And the third element that forms part of this partner program is a match-up database that we run, where effectively we're able to connect up accountants or brokers or corporate advisors with businesses who are looking to either sell or acquire. So if you're a partner of ours, you go straight into that partner database, and where we can see opportunities to provide matchups, then we introduce you. And the final element of our partner program is ongoing education in the form of seminars, webinars, and meetups. And that's something new that we're introducing into the partner program in early 2020. So if you're not a partner, then all you need to do to become a partner is just pop us an email at partners@aspectlegal.com.au and just simply say in your subject column, I want to become a partner. It's as easy as that to get immediate access to our free legal hotline and all of those other resources. We look forward to having you on board as a partner.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That will conclude this evening's entertainment.
Thanks for listening to the Deal Room Podcast. To find out more about this episode and other episodes in the series, check out the show notes or head over to our website at thedealroompodcast.com.au.